Guys, we have a problem. We need to find a way to measure poverty.
Well, Letty, before we can find a new way to measure poverty, we need to define what poverty is.
Rima's right. To me, poverty isn't just a lack of money. Poverty is a circumstance where individuals or households lack the resources that they need to meet their basic needs. These basic needs include water, shelter, electricity, education, and healthcare, and many other things that contribute to their quality of life. How would you all define poverty?
Yes, that's true. Back in India, in my village, a lot of people, they don't have water, education, food, even shelter to live. And that's basic need that a lot of people are lacking in my village. So I would definitely define the way you did how poverty is and how we define poverty.
No, I definitely agree with that, Rima, because when I first came to America, it was a whole new definition of poverty, because people over here had microwaves and refrigerators, but the nuance was that every family still was struggling to put food on the table.
And yeah, food is a basic need.
So we all agree that poverty is a matter of basic need, but how do we quantify that?
Yes, I agree with that. Like, how do we quantify it? How does someone draw a line between living in poverty and not living in poverty? Because it is different around the world.
Exactly. According to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, the capability approach purports that freedom to achieve well-being is a matter of what people are able to do and be, and thus the kind of life they're effectively able to lead.
In another word, poverty can be measured by the amount of freedom one has to achieve their basic functionings as a human being. These functionings include examples such as being nourished, being educated, living in safe housing, and the ability to have meaningful relationships.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like, poverty is multidimensional. That's why, like, when measuring poverty, we should take other aspects in it as well.
Another way to measure poverty is the official poverty measure, or OPM.
Right.
And OPM is a more traditional way of measuring poverty, where in the 1960s, it was measured by 3 times the thrifty food basket, which was kind of the measure of how much food a person would need living in poverty on a day-to-day basis. And today, because that's an incredibly outdated approach, basically the OPM just adjusts for inflation.
Wow, that's insane.
Yes, OPM is one, but isn't it income based? It takes into account your gross annual pre-tax, which includes your cash benefits. But how about non-cash benefits? It doesn't give us the holistic view of the bigger picture.
Great point. Luckily, SPM is the more common way to measure poverty these days, and it does count for non-cash benefits.
Yeah, the threshold of SPM is based on the cost of basic needs such as utilities, shelter, and clothing.
And it can also be applied in different locations, which is great.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on our journey. Today we'll be explaining how to measure poverty using supplemental poverty measures, or SPM.
Through evaluating many different ways to measure poverty, we have determined that SPM is the most effective and holistically accurate way to represent poverty all around the world.
OPM, official poverty measure, which considers gross annual pre-tax income, which includes cash benefits. It does not provide a comprehensive picture of whether people's basic needs are being satisfied or not. OPM is very outdated and just does not take into account the concerns with poverty in today's society. In the slide we can see is how the system still relies on the outdated belief that households still spend 1/3 of their income on food. In comparison to the 1950s, when households spent 1/3 of their income on food, families now spend less than 15% of their income on food. Instead, households today spend a bigger portion of their income on housing, childcare, and healthcare that we can see on the slides.
The capabilities approach was first introduced in the 1980s by an Indian economist, Amartya Sen. In his approach, poverty is understood as deprivation in the capability to live a good life, according to the Encyclopedia of Philosophy. This good life, or achieving a high quality of life, is based on what individuals are able to achieve, in other words, their capabilities. These capabilities allow someone to complete functionings, such as being nourished or having a house, which are examples of what both determine how well a person is living. A reason why we do not think the capabilities approach is the best way to measure poverty is because it is difficult to quantify someone's ability to achieve certain functionings, and capabilities are not only impacted by income, but also conditions such as physical health, psychological health, geography, and family dynamics. For an example, an individual can be physically disabled and thus lacking a particular capability, but also be quite wealthy and thus not be living in poverty. American philosopher Martha Nussbaum has contributed to the capabilities approach with her capability theory of justice. This theory includes a list of capabilities, which are listed as 1. Life, 2. Bodily health, 3. Bodily integrity, 4. Senses, imagination, and thought, 5. Emotions, 6. Practical reason, 7. Affiliation, 8. Other species, or being able to live with and interact with different animals, 9. Play, 10. Control over one's environment. Again, while these are all important parts of people's lives, these capabilities are hard to quantify and thus don't give us a very accurate or precise measure of poverty, which would indicate one's basic needs are being met. Another scholar who influenced our perspective on the best way to measure poverty is Robert Rector. Rector believes that government measures of poverty are misleading and inaccurate. He backs his argument by noting that the living conditions of people living in poverty are misconstrued, and actually much better than the media projects. Rector backs his argument by displaying the amount of access to basic amenities people in poverty have in the United States, as pictured on the left. However, we would argue that while not every American living in poverty is in extremely adverse living circumstances, that doesn't mean that they aren't struggling to meet their basic needs. For example, someone may be able to access amenities such as a refrigerator or an oven, which Rector considers to be an indication of well-being. But while that individual may have access to those amenities, they may not be able to pay their bills that allow for those amenities to function. Additionally, most rental properties come with such utilities and often don't indicate whether or not an individual would be able to purchase such appliances on their own. While there is no perfect way to measure poverty, we would disagree with Rector's argument.
So I know what you guys are thinking. What is the most effective poverty measure? Like we said before, we think that the SPM, or Supplement Poverty Measure, would be the most effective. So what is the SPM? The Supplement Poverty Measure, SPM, provides a more comprehensive assessment of economic well-being compared to the official poverty measure. Unlike the official poverty measure, OPM, which primarily relies on pre-tax income and neglects regional cost of living, the SPM takes a more inclusive approach. So, what other factors does the SPM account for? This includes income, non-cash benefits, geographical differences, and necessary expenses. The SPM includes cash income from various sources, such as earnings, Social Security, and supplement security income. It also considers the value of non-cash benefits, such as food stamps, SNAP, housing subsidies, school lunches, which can help low-income individuals and families meet their basic needs. The SPM adjusts poverty thresholds based on geographical location as well. It recognizes that the cost of living varies across different regions. The SPM subtracts necessary expenses such as taxes, work-related expenses, and out-of-pocket medical costs. Subtracting these necessary expenses gives us a better view if the household is truly in poverty. Thank you for joining us on this fine day to discuss poverty. Why do we do this? That's a great question. Well, we define poverty, and then after that, we define the best way to measure poverty. And for why? Because people matter.